So, I was going through some of my old stuff when I happened upon my old Yu-Gi-Oh card binder. I cracked it open, and the nostalgia came rushing back to me, pestering the crap out of my mom and dad to buy me new packs in exchange for house chores, doing yard work for my neighbors, just so I could go out and buy a few new booster boxes. But as I was flipping through the pages, one card in particular caught my eye. My first edition Machine King. This card holds a darker story, and thus our story begins. When I was about 8 years old, I found out about Yu-Gi-Oh through a friend of mine. I was immediately enamored with the show, the card game, anything related to it. I got my first 2 decks not long after. A Seto Kaiba starter deck and a Yugi starter deck. Of course, excited, I took these to school to show them off to my friends. Most of them hadn't even heard of Yu-Gi-Oh before. One of my friends who did know of the game had told me that there were Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments being held at our local Walmart. I was flipping out at the thought of it. I found out it was being held on Saturdays, out in their lawn and garden section. So, the very next Saturday, I begged my dad to take me. He had to do some grocery shopping anyways, so he didn't see the harm in it. He took me back to the lawn and garden section and made sure to tell me, "Look, I'll be done in about an hour. If anyone tries to grab you, hurt you, or anything like that, scream for the nearest employee." Now, I wasn't a dumb kid by any means, but keep this in mind for the remainder of the story. So, I looked for anyone around my age to duel. There were some teenagers, some adults supervising, and any kid that was my age was already dueling somebody else who was their age. I was pretty bummed out, and almost left because of this. Before I had a chance to turn around and leave, though, I heard a voice. "Hey, you looking for someone to duel?" I turned to see an older man, maybe mid to late 30s, short with almost buzz-cut level brown hair. He was very skinny and extremely pale, and had dark, sunken eyes. He was wearing a brown leather jacket. The jacket threw me off, and is something I still don't understand to this day because it was late springtime, and it was extremely hot and humid out. Definitely not leather jacket weather. Sure, I guess. I felt a bit safe knowing there were employees nearby. Big mistake. He let me go first. As we dueled, I'd glance up at him when I ended my turn to meet his unblinking gaze. He put cards down without ever breaking eye contact with me. Eventually, our duel came to an end. I lost and extended my hand to shake his for a duel well done. Instead of shaking my hand, he gave me a Machine King, which is a card I had never seen before. "That's for you. Thanks for the duel." After that, he left. I was pretty confused, but at the same time I was content because I'd just gotten a free card. At the time, I thought Machine King was a pretty powerful one. After a couple more duels, my dad showed up and I had to leave. The next Saturday, he was there again. Of course, we dueled. This time I won. But yet again, I extend my hand, and he gives me another Machine King. It almost became a ritual. "Sir, you already gave me one of these. Anyways, I don't want your cards, I'd just like a handshake." "Oh, well, if you want a different card, I have more at my house. I don't live too far from here. You can pick any card you want." "Well, I don't know. My dad told me not to go anywhere with strangers." "Well, what's your name?" I was hesitant for a moment, but I thought there couldn't possibly be any harm in telling him my name. "Ricky." "Well, my name is Tom, see? I'm not a stranger anymore." He ushered me toward the exit. I don't know why, but I stupidly went with him. Before we made it to the exit of the store, I was stopped in my tracks by the booming voice of my dad. "Ricky, where do you think you're going?" I looked back to see my dad running towards me. Tom, as soon as he saw my dad, took off in the opposite direction, running as fast as he could out of the store. My dad snatched me up in his arms and immediately ran to the nearest employee to have them alert management. This image was caught on security camera, and they were constantly on the lookout for him. Because of this incident, there were always 2 police officers present at these Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments from then on. I'm not sure if they ever caught the guy or whatever happened to him, but my dad and I both sit and shudder at the thought of what could have happened. So, this just happened tonight, and I'm still freaking out about it. The background info first. I work second shift at my company, normally from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. On the street I work, there are 2 ways for me to get home. To the left takes me over some train tracks. There's a 24-hour burger place and a Mexican fast food place that's open until 3 a.m. The police station is maybe a 10-minute drive from the tracks. To the right, it takes me straight to the highway, which gets me home. If I go to the left, I have to take side streets to get to the highway, as it doesn't connect for a few blocks, or go back over the tracks and past my workplace to get to the highway. Hope I didn't lose you there. On to the story. Tonight, I got out a little bit early, at around 12:30. Lucky me. I was hungry, so instead of going straight home, I decided to go out for burgers. Usually I have my window rolled down, listening to music on my phone. As I closed my door, I realized there was a rather large spider that had spun its web outside, between my window and my side mirror. Spiders freak me out. If I had been inside, I would have beaten Usain Bolt getting out of that car. Since it was outside, I contented myself to leave my windows rolled up and just blast my music inside the car. As I'm pulling out, I see the train barriers come down. I'm not foolish enough to try and beat them, so I pull up and wait at the barrier. As I'm waiting, though, I see movement out of the corner of my eye. That's when I see him. A haggard man, maybe somewhere in his 30s with dirty hair and dirty clothes, standing next to my car. We have a few homeless people around, but they usually don't bother you if you ignore them and don't talk to them. I figure he'll just go away. No. He walks to the driver's side and tries to open my car door. My car has automatic locks that activate pretty much as soon as you turn the car on. Thank goodness. Then he starts banging on my car door window. He keeps screaming at me to let him in. I reach for my phone, but of course I'm panicking and can't get it out of my purse. Then I immediately dropped it to the side of the seat. I was scared he was going to break the glass or something at this point. I have a foldable nightstick in my car, but in my panic I forgot it was there. I finally got a hold of my phone and dialed 911. I was screaming at him to back off and that I'd already called the police. He was going around trying to get into the car via the other doors, screaming at me the whole time and calling me about every name in the book, just saying, "Get out of the car." I'm giving the dispatcher my location, and it feels like forever for the cops to show up. It was likely only a few minutes, though. The guy, in the meantime, is crawling on top of my car and beating it with his fists. Of course, now the train is left, and the barrier is up, but I didn't want to risk killing this man by flooring it over the tracks. I'm pretty sure it's at least manslaughter if he dies. I'm not sure about that, but I wasn't willing to risk any jail time over this crazy person. Thankfully, I finally see the cop lights coming. He runs off, and one of the responding officers gives chase. The other cop tells me to pull in at the burger place and calms me down. He takes all the information I can remember in my panicked state. He then says offhandedly something to the effect of, "Good thing your windows weren't down." That's when it hit me. The only reason they weren't down was because of that spider on my car. They didn't find the guy, as there were a crap ton of places to hide and it's pretty rough terrain at night, but they did say they would step up patrols around the area. The cops assured me I did everything right that I could have done. I didn't get out of the car and called for help. I decided to skip eating out, as I wasn't in the mood anymore, and just went home to have a freak out and methodically quadruple check all my doors and windows. The cops said they would call if they found anything, so we'll see. I had a stalker from Xbox Live trying to find me at work 2 days ago, on a Monday. I'm only 17 and work second shift at my local movie theater. It was Friday night. My weekend had just begun. I was on Xbox Live and playing Overwatch and eating some now cold pizza like lots of my friends were. I was kicking considerable ass, more than I usually was at this game, and I was on fire. For non-Overwatch players, it basically means you're doing really good, for 3 matches. At around 2 a.m., I decided to step up my game and go right into competitive mode. I got into a match at King's Row, and I was playing Pharah on defense. I got a 15-player kill streak, but I noticed that 5 of them were on the same person, a Bastion. I remember his username. The match goes on for about another minute, and then I suddenly get an invite to a party. The gamer tag was the same as the Bastion I'd just killed for the 6th time. I wasn't in a party, since all of my friends had called it a night except for me at that point. I decided that whatever he wanted to say could be interesting, so I added him. Now, I usually expect some kids a few years younger than me to be shit-talking me, but to my surprise, it was a grown man on the other end. More to my surprise, he sounded like he was in his 30s rather than closer to my age, and he had a thick Spanish accent. Immediately, this guy starts cussing me out. I can't lie when I say I pretty much expected this to happen when I got a party invite. Now, I have the mentality where, if you're a jerk to me, I'll return the favor. I replied with an old classic. "Oh, you mad, bro?" This guy didn't acknowledge what I said. Instead of saying he would fuck my mom or something like most people did, this guy said, "Fuck you, your entire family. I'll make sure to decapitate your mother and make your dad fuck her down the goddamn neck." I was sort of shocked by this, but it didn't last long. "Bro, just take a chill pill." "No, I want you to..." He stopped. I noticed why. A DVA on our team had just killed his Bastion hero again. Now, this is where things get scary. It sounded as if he had turned into some rabid animal that was trying to suffocate itself on the mic, and screaming and howling and spitting, all at the same time. It's difficult to describe exactly the sound he was making, but that's the closest I can do. Inhuman noises were coming from this person, as if he was being gutted and possessed by a demon at the same time. He was a grown man, too, which made the entire thing scary, as compared to laughing my ass off when a 12-year-old loses it. The match ended. The enemy team didn't even get the payload moving. The man lost his shit some more, because he lost. Then I decided to be a bit of a jerk again and not take this clearly crazy guy's shit. Look, it's not my fault you suck at this game. You're just being treated like the child you really are. I mean, grow up, man. The Spanish guy didn't like this. He just hollered, "Fuck you," into the microphone for, no joke, 20 seconds. It started getting all crackly. He was being so loud that he was breaking his mic. Then he removed me from the party. I decided that since the match was over, I'd call it a night, just like my friends had. My overall reaction to what went down was, okay, that was something. I logged out, turned off my Xbox, and went to bed. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I realized how much of an idiot I was for not recording any of it. My friends would have had a hoot if they had heard it. Then I fell asleep. Saturday went by with nothing, and I thought that was that with the pissed Spanish guy. The next Sunday, I logged on to my Xbox that morning to play some more games. I noticed I had a message from the guy saying, "Good morning," with my full name. "I know you have to go to the address of the movie theater I work at tomorrow." What the fuck?" I said out loud. I decided to pull out my phone and take a picture of the TV screen. I then texted my boss about it and told her that some guy on Xbox somehow found out where I'd worked. Now, my boss is a bit of a bitchy old lady, so she naturally didn't care about what happened on Xbox. Even though it concerned my work, she just blew it off and told me I still had to come in the next day. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and The Incredibles 2 are both hot right now, so we were going to be extremely busy. I ended up coming in the next day at 5:30. It was pretty boring and very busy, like I'd predicted, up until about 8 o'clock, when a super short guy came in through the front door. It was loud and pretty crowded, but the man hollers my full name. The same thick Spanish accent from the Xbox. Shit, it was him. I still to this day don't know where he got my info from, or why he decided to come all the way out to where I worked. The theater fell silent. I just walked into the back room where my boss was and told her that the man from Xbox was inside. She repeated the whole "I don't care what happens on Xbox, get back to work" rant that she'd texted me. I repeated to her that the man was inside the building. I didn't know if he wanted to hurt me or not, and that I was going to call the cops. I ended up actually calling them. It wasn't until they arrived and spoke to me privately in the back room that my boss ended up taking me seriously. The Spanish man was still inside the lobby, and the cops put him in cuffs and walked him out. This is according to my boss, since I was in the back room and couldn't witness it. I still haven't heard anything from the cops. I don't know how he found my info, or why he came all the way to where I worked. I still don't know what he planned to do to me. Either way, I'm still a bit shaken up over it. I don't know if he knows my home address or not either, and I'm pretty much on guard 24/7. Either way, I own 2 dogs that can scare off anyone, but I'm still pretty terrified of this guy. I contacted the police department, and I heard they had taken the guy on Monday, so I have the satisfaction of knowing he didn't get away. They're still being stingy on information, and won't even tell me his name because of all this security garbage. I'm waiting for a full police report on this. They promised that they would give me one soon. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm just going to try and not focus on this guy for now. We had many things happen in our 5 years of living here, but this one I will never forget, and I've told this story a few times, so here we go. We were living in a bad part of town. Well, it wasn't horrible, but you always locked your car doors, trunk, pretty much anything with a lock. This night was like any other. We were watching TV, and both of us were playing on our PCs in the living room. We're huge gaming nerds, and our PCs are always in the living room. At this time, our cat, Bleach Spot, nicknamed because she had one white spot on the top of her head, was sitting in the kitchen window crying. It was odd because she didn't usually cry very much. My husband proceeded to get up and go check things out when we see a foot, yes, a foot, in our kitchen window. My husband opens the window and asks the guy why he's standing in our kitchen window. The guy was a Hispanic guy who apparently lived in the apartment above ours and got locked out somehow. He was trying to crawl up the outside of the building, back into his apartment. He told this guy to get his ass down from there before he breaks his neck. The guy told my husband okay and proceeded to start climbing down. He also had to climb down because my husband was hanging onto his foot as well. He was not letting that guy climb up the outside wall. Now just think for a second. These were 2-story apartments, and he was almost to the 2nd story, so I'm guessing that he was already 8 feet in the air. How he thought that he was going to be able to climb up there is beyond any rational thoughts I can put together. Now while the guy was climbing back down, My husband gets on the phone and calls 911. Something about it just didn't look right. I mean, clearly it didn't look right for him to be climbing up there. I meant if he was locked out for a good reason, you would call the landlord or the maintenance man to come let you back into your apartment. Our landlord lived on the premises, along with the maintenance guy as well, so we knew that something fishy was going on here. We called 911 and explained this guy was climbing up the outside of the building, trying to get into the top apartment. They said they would send someone out right away. This guy comes around to the front of the apartment building, goes upstairs and proceeds to beat on the door for about 15 minutes straight. My husband even opened the door and hollered upstairs and told him to knock it off and that it was getting very late. It was around 1 a.m. at this time. He's still beating on the door when the cop arrives to find out what's going on or arrest him, whatever they had planned to do here. The cop goes upstairs and tells him to stop beating on the door and to come downstairs so they could talk and settle something. Well, this guy didn't like the cop apparently, so somehow in an enclosed breezeway, he gets away from the cop and runs off. The next thing I know, I find out why this guy was climbing up our window and upstairs beating the door down. A lady cop came to our door and wanted to come inside to talk to us. She told us that the man had been kicked out by his girlfriend. He was illegally in the U.S., and the reason she wasn't up there, her and her mother both were in the hospital. He had beaten both of them black and blue with a baseball bat. His girlfriend had wanted to break up with him, and when she did, he got mad and almost beat them both to death. Apparently, he did all of this before we had gotten home that evening, and while we were at my husband's mother's house. So when we got home, the commotion was already over, and no one had told us a thing. The female cop, who was, by the way, about 6'2", told us to make sure and lock all our windows and keep the front door locked. They were going to have a cop car with a spotlight all night long, checking over the apartment complex and basically in the area where these apartments were located. She said to consider the man extremely dangerous and to not try to apprehend him ourselves. We agreed with her right away. She gave us her card and told us good night. The next day, the sweet lady who lived across the hall came over to let us in on some more information. Apparently, they did find the guy, but he was never caught because he got away from them again. The mother and daughter, or, well, his ex-girlfriend, were stable, but in bad shape. Still, they would make it. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. I have a little bit of an update here for you guys. I've recently started streaming a little bit on Twitch. I don't know if you guys are interested in just hanging out and seeing a bit of gameplay of maybe Monster Hunter or some games like that, maybe a few horror games, but I'll leave a link to my Twitch in the description of the video below. As always, if you guys like the video, please leave a comment or perhaps like or subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you'd like to message me, or you'd like to send in a story for me to read, or you have a suggestion for a story I should read, the links to all of my social media will be in the description of the video below as well. This includes my Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, and now, of course, my Twitch account. Go ahead and send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But please, guys, be patient, because I do get a lot of messages, so if I don't respond to you right away within like a week or two, just be a little patient. I'll get to it as soon as I can. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the description of the email or message what the name of the story is, what the category of the story is, and how you would like to be credited in the video that the story appears in. If you guys are curious about the music used in this video, links to the music and the order in which the music appears will always be in the description below the video, so you can go ahead and check that out there. Last but not least, if you guys do enjoy my content, please take a look at my Patreon, and if you feel so inclined, maybe donate like $1 or something. Every little bit helps. It'll never be necessary, but of course, it's always an option if you guys would like to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.